Hello, and thank you for listening to Texas History for Kids. I'm your host, Michelle Gallegos, an educator, writer, history nerd, and novice investigator. Each week on the show, we will learn about interesting parts of Texas history, from battles and historical figures to the odd and enchanted. Welcome back to Texas History for Kids. This is episode number 99, and I'm your host, Michelle Gallegos. Unfortunately, Zoe could not be here today, but I promise she will be on the next episode, which just happens to be one of our big milestone episodes. Next week, Texas History for Kids hits our 100th episode, and we want you to join the celebration. Send us a quick recording. Tell us your name, where you're listening from, and what you love most about the show. And if I can, I'll feature your voice right on the podcast. Not a talker? No problem. Send me a drawing, a piece of art, or even just a simple note. And even if it's just something I can share, I'll gladly spotlight it. So don't be shy. Let me know that you're out there listening and loving history right along with us. Today's episode story begins with a colorful and mysterious artifact that looks like it stepped right out of a dream. Sitting behind a glass is a creature with wings like a dragon, claws like an eagle, and the face of a lion. Its colors swirl in oranges, purples, and blues, almost glowing under the museum light. This is an alebrije, one of Mexico's most beloved art forms. But to understand its meaning, we have to take a journey back in time to the days of the Aztec Empire, when death wasn't something to fear, it was something to honor. So today you'll learn 3 things: what alebrijes are, where they come from, and how they've changed culture and beyond. In Aztec legend, there was a powerful goddess whose name I cannot pronounce, by the way, but she is known as the Lady of the Dead. She ruled the underworld, known as Mictlan, alongside her husband. Together, they watched over the souls of the departed and guarded the bones that would one day give life to new generations. But unlike the Maya, the Aztecs didn't have a fully written language. Instead, they used symbols and pictures that stood for words or sounds. Much of what we know about them comes from these symbols, combined with a few of some written records that were recorded by Spanish explorers during the colonial period. It is through these records that stories of the Lady of the Dead and her husband have survived, passed down from one century to the next. And remarkably, many of her customs still live on today in modern Dia de los Muertos celebrations. If an Aztec could step into our world today, the marigolds, the candles, the altars, they might all look surprisingly familiar. The myths of the Lady of the Dead tells us that while there are many tales, fewer are known about the Lady of the Dead herself. One story says she was born and then she was soon sacrificed as a baby, destined to rule the underworld at her husband's side. Together, the two ruled over different kinds of souls: those who died natural deaths, like of sickness or accidents, and those who died heroically, like those who died in battle, or for women, it might be a mother who died giving birth to her child. For the Aztecs, not all deaths were equal. They believed that the way a person died determined their afterlife far more than how they lived. A noble or a heroic death meant that your soul earned a special journey and a place of honor in the spirit world, separate from those who died of natural causes. So the Aztecs were a warrior society. Those who died fighting bravely in war were believed to be accompanied by the sun on its journey across the sky. Their souls would rise with the sunset in the east, helping the sun rise each morning. After 4 years, these warriors were reborn as hummingbirds or butterflies, which are symbols of strength and beauty, and most importantly, transformation. Now, a warrior's death wasn't tragic, it was the ultimate honor. But on the flip side of that, those who died peacefully or from illnesses journeyed to Mictlan, which was the underworld that was ruled by the Lady of Death and her husband. Their souls faced a long, difficult, 9-level journey that took 4 years to complete. Along the way, they would cross rivers, mountains, and winds before finally finding eternal rest. These weren't considered noble deaths, but they were part of the sacred balance, the normal rhythm of life and death. So in one ancient version of the myth, the Lady of Death and her husband gathered the bones of the dead so the other gods could return them to the land of the living. But something went wrong according to the myth, and the bones were dropped and all mixed together, creating all the many races and types of humans that we have today. A reminder that we are all quite literally made from the same pieces. The Aztecs buried food, jewelry, and other treasures with their dead, not out of greed, but as offerings to the gods, ensuring the travelers had safe passage through Mictlan. So the Lady of Dead wasn't a figure of fear. She was a protector, a symbol that death was not the end, but a doorway to the next life. So the Aztecs believed that every person was born with a tonal, or an animal, a spirit that was your twin. Your tonal might be a jaguar, an eagle, a coyote, or a hummingbird. Whatever the creature, it would share your soul and your fate. So in essence, if your tonal thrived and lived, so did you. But if it got sick or it got injured, your health might suffer too. To them, this wasn't superstition. It showed how deeply the Aztecs respected nature. To them, humans and animals weren't separate beings, but they were two halves of the same existence. Now, animals carried the wisdom that people needed. The eagle had courage. The coyote had smarts. The jaguar had strength. And the butterfly had the gift of renewal. The tonal reminded people that their lives were connected to nature, to the natural world. That harmony between human and animal would be kept in balance with the universe. These beliefs about spirit guardians would quietly survive for centuries, blending into folk traditions that still honor life, nature, and the unseen world. Now let's enter the dream of Mr. Pedro Linares. Travel back in time with me to Mexico City in 1936, where a 30-year-old artist named Pedro Linares lived. He had spent much of his time creating beautiful piñatas, carnival masks, and papier-mâché art, and then he would sell them at local markets. In Mexico, those markets are called mercados. So one day, Pedro got really sick, and he developed a fever that caused him to go into a deep coma. It was during that coma that his life would change forever. He drifted into a strange, vivid dream. In that dream, there were trees, animals, clouds, a beautiful sky, rocks on the ground that filled the forest. In that forest, at that moment, he felt no pain and he was very happy wandering around. When suddenly, those rocks and clouds and animals started to transform into something he could no longer explain. they turned into bizarre creatures. He saw a donkey with butterfly wings, a rooster with bull horns, a lion with an eagle head, and they were all shouting one word to him: Alebrijes! Every animal was shouting louder and louder, Alebrijes! 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 The sound was terrible, and Pedro could not stay there for very long. He got a terrible headache, and he stumbled along a stone road where he found another man. Now Pedro was very desperate to escape, and he asked the man for help. The man told him that he should not be there yet. He told Pedro that he had to walk away, and there was another road a few meters down the way, and that would be his way out of this strange place. Now Pedro ran until he was in front of a narrow window. He stood there for a minute and passed through that window. Then he woke up. The reality he thought was happening was just a dream. But as Pedro woke up and he got better from his sickness, he couldn't get those images of the animals out of his mind. They stayed with him. So, to capture what he had seen, he began sculpting the creatures out of cardboard and paper mache. He painted them in wild colors like he had seen in his dream, including those neon blues, the fiery oranges, and the electric greens, each one more mystical than the last. He called them Alebrijes, a word that he had heard in his dream. Now, no one really knows where it came from, but some believe it blends parts of 3 different Spanish words. Ale from alegría, which means happiness. Br from bruja, meaning witch or magical. And he from embije, meaning painting. It's as if the word itself meant like the joy of magical painting. But of course, nobody knows for sure because this was a part of one of Pedro's dreams. Now, at first, Alebrijes were fragile paper mache creations. But in the 1980s, about 50 years after his dream, wood carvers from Oaxaca, Mexico, led by the famous artist Manuel Jimenez, began carving them from copal wood. These wooden alebrijes became stronger, brighter, and uniquely Mexican. The 2 artists were able to combine Aztec tradition, Mexican culture, Spanish influence, and of course, their imaginations. Soon they became symbols of Mexican creativity and identity, and naturally, they found their place in Dia de los Muertos celebrations. Now today, alebrijes often stand as guardians on ofrendas. An ofrenda is a special altar that's built during Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, to honor and remember loved ones who have passed away. The word ofrenda means offering in Spanish, and that's exactly what is happening. People are offering a loving gift for the spirits of the family and friends of their loved ones when they return on their yearly visit on November 1st and 2nd. Ofrendas are often built in homes, schools, or even public plazas. They usually have 3 levels or steps. The first represents the sky, the second represents the earth, and the third level represents the underworld. Families place these items on ofrendas that help guide the souls home and make them feel welcome, like pictures, marigold flowers, sugar skulls, or the favorite foods and drinks that their loved ones enjoyed while they were alive. An ofrenda isn't just one thing. It's a collection of symbols, colors, and memories. Each item has a purpose and a meaning. The alebrijes often have wild shapes and colors that symbolize protection, imagination, and the power of art to bridge the earthly world with the spiritual one. Now, although alebrijes are not actually ancient Aztec relics, it is believed that they carry ancient spirits. They are the modern faces of the tonals, which are animal protectors from the ancient Aztec times. In cities all throughout Texas, giant glowing alebrije parades happen in the streets every fall. Their painted wings stretching towards the sky, which honor the ancestors who came before them. Pedro Linares' fever dream and the story of the Alebrijes is a story of connection between the past and the present, between people and their spirit guardians, between art and life itself. These ancient festivals became our modern Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead celebrations. The Aztec tonals evolved into alebrijes, and through it all, one truth has never changed: to remember to keep life alive. It's quiz time. Question number 1. What was the name of the artist who created Alebrijes? A. Leonardo da Vinci, B. Pedro Linares, or C. Mona Lisa? If you answered B, you are absolutely correct. Pedro Linares created them after that dream he had. Question number 2. What do people now believe alebrijes do for them? A. They make people pretty. B. They travel with them. Or C. They protect and guide them. The answer is C. Alebrijes guide and protect them. So the next time you see an alebrije, remember the worlds it unites: the living, the dead, and the dreamers who paint their stories in every shade of the rainbow. Thank you for listening to Texas History for Kids. Don't forget to grab the Dia de los Muertos companion kit by clicking on the resources link in my show notes. It includes reading passages, vocabulary, and even hands-on alebrije STEM-related projects. And don't forget, the best Texas stories live just beyond the lessons in your classrooms, waiting for you to explore. Stay curious.